one of only one that ever won, the only stitching of the only blue, only carbon package of the only one of that year, and brakes that had the only one brakes of 2020 and the one of one, and I have the one of one.
This is RCR's website. This is where you click to submit your car for review. This is where you buy merch. This is where you sign up for bonus content and 2020 Lotus Evora GT.
Ooh, that sounds even. Alright, I'm gonna leave the windows down for a second. Okay. No juice. Hell yeah. Fun fact, that's a normal mode. Let's hit sport.
Best car I've driven all year. This is a fierce electric shot to your spine and male G-spot to shock you out of your world of towny conversations about the 24-hour news cycle. Drive with the windows down, hear the supercharger whine and overpower the wind.
Oh, that's nice. Right? It's intoxicating.
Alright, yeah. Why did I, yeah.
Put it. This car rewards you with good driving.
Yes, the Evora GT does have an electronic throttle, but it's very hands-off. This is hard mode. You want full power? Well, you got it. Turns? Go twice as fast as the advertised speed and ruin your relationships. Force your shortest friend to sit in the back and listen to her
eat her own pussy.
Lotus Evora GT. I hope you like a 2-hour mix of Gran Turismo menu music, because that's what we're listening to. To me, this is the best car I've driven all year, because it's the closest thing we'll ever get to a 4th gen MR2. MR2s were always Lotus adjacent. And this, Lotus, is a Toyota adjacent car with the 2GR FE 3.5 liter V6 with variable valve timing on all camshafts and that kink blower boosting power to 416 horsepower. And the final gearing is tall enough for this Sonic Blue Razor to hit 188 miles an hour. Now, the owner claims to have touched 170 on a closed road in Mexico. The 6-speed manual feels Honda good, and the light fuzzy seats have firm muscles underneath that hold me in a masculine yet tender embrace. The Evora GT wants to play, but still wants to protect. It even has enough ground clearance to deal with railroad tracks. Price point? Well, between $110,000 to $120,000. These number variants are clownish. But if you think about it, raising a child costs about the same. But an offspring only gets you public accolades for about the first 6 to 8 years. A Lotus harvests positive attention forever. Lotus Evora. That's right. I'm driving a very expensive mid-engine sports car that isn't a C8 Corvette because I am in a lucrative line of work. I'm not even 30 years old yet. How do you like that? Lotus Evora GT. The upside to hustle culture. How does it feel to look at someone who's achieved things that you never will and who's half your age? Driving this car, it has a comfortable touring mode, but you're not going to use it. You're going to use sport mode all the time. Oh, but then there's a race mode. But that is a 100 milligram brownie, and all driver's aids they're all off now. And the threshold between joy and soul death is thinner than beauty standards. Enjoy an Evora GT with full power, but all driver's aids on, because the hustle is real, and we have work to do after we come back to Earth. It's hard not to want to ration the daylight for a car like this, to carve out time to spend in the sunshine for an unobstructed afternoon. No church, no company picnic, no doing the books or cleaning the pool or proofreading your emails immediately after sending them. The Lotus Evora is utterly devoid of artifice. It is too simple to be anything other than the fast sports car it looks like. That Toyota engine, with its Edelbrock supercharger, Again, 416 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque, and a 6-speed manual designed by Aisin. Aisin is a global Fortune 500 company that produces car components for Toyota. And it has a dry weight of 3,175 pounds, and it moves like a bullet made out of solid ice. It's a sensation of gliding your socks on a floor coated in Aunt Fanny's vinegar wash. This is more comfortable than a McLaren, and it's way better value for money, and it's more pleasing to be inside. It doesn't scare you the way a McLaren does, and you're not bamboozled by the price. But honestly, if you're buying a Lotus, prices are not something you're really concerned about. The Evora GT is both sophisticated and cool, while simultaneously coming across like a car that wants to be noticed. It's needier for attention than someone who just got their blue check mark. And yes, this is rare, I guess. At least in the comparison to others of its make and model. This is just one out of 249 Evoras for 2020, and only one of 9 in this color, and the only one with all these options, including the carbon fiber package. And no fake vents here. They're all functional. And considering what they cost, they better be. Long story short, Jonathan wanted a manual transmission mid-engine car that he could daily. The MR2 doesn't exist anymore, and we're running out of people who know how to work on them. A McLaren can't really handle railroad tracks or off-camber curbs, or steep driveways for that matter. And Chevrolet is still not offering a manual in the C8. So he landed on the Lotus. He purchased it, slightly used with only 1,100 miles. The original MSRP was $116,000, but Jonathan was able to get it for $93,000. Not that bad considering we're in the middle of this chip shortage. The car is currently sitting at around 18,000 miles after only 6 months of ownership. Yep, he's driving it like a Toyota. And it's been driven hard. The wheels are just caked in brake dust. And he said, should I clean this before should I go to the coin wash and just spray this off? And I'm like, no, let's keep this car dirty. Let's say that this is a Lotus that's used as a car. Curious thing, the manual says to change your cabin air filter every 40,000 miles, but when Jonathan changed it at only 10,000, the filter was practically black. Lotus Evora GT. The official car of good weather and bad habits. It wants you to feel your tension giving way like a wrapper on a melted starburst. Fuel economy, well, you're not really paying attention to it, but if you care, this thing can touch 30 miles per gallon while going 70 with the cruise control on, but it averages around 22 miles per gallon. If you're ripping on it, you're about at 15. Now that's close enough to its competitor, which is the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4, which makes around 16 city and 23 highway. But then I doubt the Cayman GT4 has any of the oddities that the Evora offers. For instance, Jonathan had to get aftermarket taillights, which we're told is a common Lotus swap, because of the bug-eye factory taillights that throw off the aesthetic in the minds of some buyers. There are also 3 catalytic converters, one of which is to just make this thing legal in California. Oh, and never use your physical key to get into this thing. Because like some Ferraris, there's no bezel around the tumbler on the door, so the risk of scratching the paint increases each time you unlock the door. Just use the button, but even that's not easy because the buttons on your fob, they're not even labeled. So it might take a minute for you to realize that the logo, the Lotus logo in the center of the fob, that's what unlocks the car. And then once you're inside, you have 30 seconds to get the key into the ignition and press the start engine button. Yes, you got to do both of those things, or it'll cut power to the fuel pump. You have to hit the unlock button and give it another try. It's basically a security contingency known as the passive immobilization system, and I'm not sure if it's a positive or not. There's also a factory valve exhaust system that allows you to have them open or close, although they just open automatically at 4,500 RPM regardless, and half the time you're above that RPM range anyway. This car is fun all the time. Fun in the way you thought cars were when you were little. And you know why people reminisce about childhood? Because outside of homework and chores, it's the only time when life is easy. Of course, this isn't including people who had a lousy childhood or grew up in the system or were sick all the time or, lost a parent Or for me, I had this weird super sanity when I was a kid, and I knew I was a child and I knew things were going to change. So I never was romantic about childhood, and it kind of even feels like I'm still in it. Anyway, that's a story for an RCR journal at some point. For them and me, maybe for some, for maybe me, the tragedy of missing out on that period of unsanitized innocence is an absence that can shape everything that comes after. I even remember when I was that young, I was aware that these were the good times, and I was trying to feel present in the moment, but I never really could. But for many people, childhood is as easy as life ever gets. You're too young to fully appreciate it in the moment. Or for me, you're aware of that you're supposed to feel something, but never did feel anything. Anyway, because childhood is riddled with little imperfections that matter in the moment, which ultimately don't mean a thing in the grand scheme of it all. Summer was never long enough, and Christmas break was always too short. You had to go to family functions you didn't want to. Now you're speaking my language. And you have to wait 30 years for your dad to stop talking with that fishing buddy he ran into at Insalacos. Or worse, Schuylkill Valley Sports. So then they can talk about the Penguins versus the Flyers for 8 years. And all you want to do is get back home in time for Legends of the Hidden Temple. Your mom knows your clothes size by heart, but still makes you try everything on in case clothing brands run large or small. But we never realized that it doesn't matter. And ultimately, grades didn't matter and permanent records didn't matter. And even when parents told us, "Hey, enjoy childhood because it gets tougher from here." Ugh. I got that line. I hated hearing that. Because what are you supposed to say to that? Because as children, we made our own happiness through friendship and playtime and neighborhood adventures. Pool parties, hide and seek, flashlight tag, playing it until the lightning bugs came out. But as adults, we latch on to where it can get. We accept it as it comes. This is not to say that adulthood is misery, not at all. You have way more freedom as an adult to do things you want to do. And for me, adulthood is way better than childhood. I get weird when like friends have their kids around because I just look at them and like, wow, you're in middle school. That sucks. I think I said that to one of my friend's kids. No, not you, Tom, but somebody else. I said that to. And they looked at me, and the kid looked at me with like patient eyes and said, "Yeah, it does." And I'm like, "Yeah, don't worry. You'll get out of it." I guess if there was a theme to my childhood, it was that. Knowing that it sucked and not believing anybody who said it was good. I almost wanted to say to adults when I was a kid who said, "Oh, this is the best time of your life." And I almost wanted to say that. Oh, my uncle used to say that. And I wanted to say something. I wanted to have this snappy comeback as a kid. He goes, "Wow, if your childhood was the best time of your life must suck now, huh?" Anyway, Lotus Evora GT. Buy this car because you deserve it. You deserve to drive a car you can enjoy driving. Cars that allow you to do the things you like. And do whatever you want with this thing. If I had it, I'd be picking up Appalachian through hikers all the time. So put your pack on your lap because there's no place to put anything. This car does have a little bit of storage, but This is just a long way to get to the central thesis of the Lotus Evora GT. A thesis statement on the nature of happiness in adulthood. Here it is. You can't wait for life to be perfect before you decide to enjoy it. Don't wait for the 2020s to become better before you allow yourself to be happy. Because it's never going to be like childhood again. When happiness presents itself, you have to go for it. This car is pure mirth. And I get the argument against it. Oh, it's expensive. Well, big surprise. We like an expensive sports car. But the point of this car isn't that you shouldn't have to apologize for enjoying something pristine, any more than you should have to apologize for not enjoying something. The Lotus Evora GT is pure joy and the best car I've driven so far this year. It's going to take a lot to top this, because it places its hands on your shoulders and guides you away from the auto show bathroom-sized lines of stress and forces you to be present in a moment where everything falls away and it's just you and the road, reminding you that cars can be fun before they're anything else. I'm so happy that the Evora GT exists, because it's an expression of humanity's enduring search for pleasure in this corporal life. Every switch turn, steering wheel, wrench, gear change, and supercharger pull is a joyous cry to the affirmative word, yes.
Alright, I've landed in 1997, and I cannot find a decent change of underwear to save my life. This is supposed to be a TJ Maxx, not a TJ Minimum. But forget all that. You see, this lady tracked me down, says I'm the father of her kids, me. The oldest is a kid named Terrence, and he's in his 20s, so there is no way. And the youngest, Darby, nothing like me at all. The middle kid, though, maybe? I don't know why she named all her kids after an 80s singer, but whatever. The middle kid is kind of a playboy jerk who acts like his mom's boyfriend, some pickup artist type, really lame. Honestly, I have no idea how they even knew I'd be here. The lady said something about an anonymous note, but I don't know. I'm thoroughly creeped out, so I'm jumping to the next location. Because strangely enough, I found a note on my windshield informing me about a physicist in Upper Merion who might be able to help me get home and how I can get to her. Now, hopefully, I'll be able to look back at this someday through the prism of a bad dream and just laugh. But for now, clearance rack Doctor Who it is. Where are these keys, damn it? Time gate activate.